Right now, the Republican presidential nominee is wrapping up a rally in Fredericksburg, Virginia. His visit to Virginia, once considered a battleground state, comes as Clinton holds a double-digit lead there in the latest poll. But Trump's speech was billed as a law and order address, and it came after he met with law enforcement officials in the state earlier today. But Trump tonight also touched on the topics of immigration, the economy, national defense, helping our vets, and his opponent, Hillary Clinton.
My opponent is the corporate defender of a totally rigged system and a failed status quo. She's an insider fighting only for herself and the other insiders, believe me. I'm an outsider who spent many millions of dollars doing this, lots of time, lots of energy, spending my money, but I'm fighting for you.
Well, Peter Doocy is live in Fredericksburg. Hi, Peter. What are you hearing from Trump tonight in Virginia?
Patty Ann, here in Virginia, where there are hundreds of thousands of veterans and there are a lot of active duty military as well, including some large military installations, Trump spoke a lot about veterans issues. He basically said that he would be the one who supports veterans. Hillary Clinton would not, in his opinion. But he talked a lot about national security, too, kind of an evolution of those ads that they rolled out yesterday, where he said he wants to make America safe again. And he suggested that President Obama's budget cuts at the Pentagon, which he associates Hillary Clinton as being a part of and encouraging, is basically going to lead to a terrorist attack here in the United States.
President Obama has proposed a 2017 defense budget that in real dollars cuts nearly 25% from what we were spending in 2011. We face threats as never, ever before, but the Obama-Clinton administration is determined to keep shrinking our military until you know what ultimately is going to happen.
Trump also continued courting African-American voters for the second day in a row. He mentioned that the Republicans are the party of Lincoln. He wants to have everybody involved with Republican politics as possible. And he also spoke a lot about, he's been calling Hillary Clinton Crooked Hillary for months now, but he's starting to explain in a more precise way why, with a lot more talk about the Clinton Foundation. And then today here in Virginia, accusing the governor, Terry McAuliffe, of allowing a lot of felons, tens of thousands of felons, onto the voter rolls for the first time, something that's been a big local issue to benefit his old friend, Hillary Clinton. Patty Ann.
So, Peter, what are you hearing from Trump supporters in Congress about his new tone on the trail?
Just a little while ago, we spoke to the member of Congress whose primary victory over Eric Cantor 2 years ago was the first sign that establishment leadership might be in trouble in the House of Representatives and in Washington, D.C., Dave Bratt, and he said that he thinks Trump on message is going to be hard to beat.
I think you've seen some changeover in the campaign in the last two speeches, the last two nights, not 10 out of 10 as far as I've heard from everybody, especially my constituents. And so I think he's just going to continue on those same themes, that the small guys get left behind on every issue imaginable, right?
And we're also getting some new details about that Hispanic roundtable Trump hosted in New York today, part of a joint outreach with the RNC. There were prominent Hispanic leaders from 12 states there who represent hundreds of thousands of evangelicals, and Republicans are trying to figure out the best way to convince them to vote Trump.
This is a great time to be able to meeting with Hispanic leaders as we see that kids are starting to go back to school. American families are ending the summer and are just beginning to really focus on this campaign and this election, with, great interest.
Trump also again alluded to questions about Hillary Clinton's health, mentioning he does not think she has the stamina, physical or mental, to serve as commander-in-chief. Patty Ann.
Peter, Trump also was talking about immigration today.
Right. There is a story floating around on social media right now, a BuzzFeed item where Trump, some of the people who came out of that Hispanic outreach meeting say that Trump said while he was in there that he wants to figure out a humane and efficient way to deal with people who are in this country illegally. I reached out to the campaign about it. They basically say that this story is making something out of nothing because that is what Trump has been saying all along. And when you look it up, which I just did in the few minutes before this hit, Trump has, as late as, or rather as long ago as last fall, said that he wants to deport everybody that's here illegally, but he wants to do it humanely, and that when he deports the people who are here illegally, he wants to do it efficiently, and he has defined what he thinks efficiently is as being about 2 years if there is effective management in charge. So the Trump campaign says that any talk about a change in position on immigration is nonsense. Patty Ann.
All right, Peter Doocy, live in Virginia. Thank you. And tonight, Trump is on Justice with Judge Jeanine. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fox News Channel. Don't miss it. And on to the Democrats now. Hillary Clinton taking a break from the campaign trail to fundraise in friendly Democratic territory, Massachusetts. Brian Yennis is here now with the latest on that. Brian, Hillary Clinton, people still talking about those emails. What's the latest there?
Hi, Patty Ann. Well, late yesterday, a federal judge in Washington, D.C., ordering that Hillary Clinton must answer written questions under oath about her private email server. Judge Emmett Sullivan's decision is a win for the conservative watchdog organization Judicial Watch, which filed the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. She will have 30 days to respond. The organization tells Fox News they will submit their questions in the coming days, meaning Clinton will have to respond before Election Day on November 8th. Now, Judicial Watch has until October 14th to submit its questions to Clinton.
The important thing is that we will now have her on the record, under oath, something no one else has ever done. And it was ordered by a court, ordered by a judge who was actually appointed by her husband. Why did she do it? How did she set it up? Who did she order? And how did they go about doing that? It's all the unanswered questions, frankly, that the American public is really due at this point.
The Clinton campaign accepts the judge's decision. Judicial Watch had asked for Clinton to answer these questions in person. In a statement from the Hillary Clinton campaign, quote, Judicial Watch is a right-wing organization that has been attacking the Clintons since the 1990s. This is just another lawsuit intended to try to hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign, and so we are glad that the judge has accepted our offer to answer these questions in writing rather than grant Judicial Watch's request. Clinton could request a delay to provide answers until after Election Day. Well, meanwhile, leaked notes handed over to Congress of Mrs. Clinton's FBI interview reveal she told investigators Secretary of State Colin Powell advised her to use a private email while at a dinner party at Madeleine Albright's home in 2009. A spokesman for Powell responding, General Powell has no recollection of the dinner conversation. He did write former Secretary Clinton an email memo describing his use of his personal AOL email account for unclassified messages and how it vastly improved communications within the State Department. Powell never had a private email server, and an Inspector General report in May said Powell used email on a limited basis and worked with the State Department to secure the system. Clinton did neither. Patty Ann.
All right, Brian, what is Hillary doing right now in Massachusetts?
Fundraising. She is on Martha's Vineyard today fundraising, and earlier this afternoon she was fundraising. She had a fundraising stop at the home of an American ambassador. The other was a summer reception, and she'll be on Cape Cod tomorrow making 2 fundraising stops. One is actually with Cher. Clinton's on track this month to top the $90 million she raised in July. Patty Ann.
All right, Brian Yennis in New York. Thank you. And a Fox News alert now. A bombing at a wedding in Turkey reportedly killed at least 22 people. It happened near the Syrian border. We're told 94 others were hurt. Those figures, according to the local governor's office. And let's take a look now at the aftermath. A local journalist says the explosion was so loud it could be heard throughout the city. Turkish officials are calling it a terror attack, although they are not saying by exactly which group. The country has been rocked by a wave of attacks in the past year, and tensions are still high after last month's failed coup attempt. Right now, we're getting an update on a story that, for many people, put the Syrian civil war into chilling focus. Heartbreaking images of a little boy caught up in the conflict. Also, authorities providing an update on that massive California wildfire. We'll have the latest containment numbers as communities cope with the aftermath.
I cried. This is my friends, not me, but it's their life. I know what they just lost.
Right now, the United Nations is working to enact a 48-hour truce as the civil war rages in Syria. The special envoy to the country is awaiting an answer from the Syrian government and rebels. This after the UN announced it is suspending the humanitarian aid task force to the region, where fighting continues to prevent deliveries from reaching devastated areas. Russia, which backs Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's forces, says it supports the proposed ceasefire, but did not say when that ceasefire should start. And sad developments tonight in an already heartbreaking story. We are now learning a 10-year-old boy who was injured during an airstrike in Aleppo, Syria, has died. That boy was critically wounded when the blast hit an apartment earlier this week. The boy was the brother of this 5-year-old. The photograph of the 5-year-old seated bloody and dazed in an ambulance sent new waves of shock around the world. Officials say the 5-year-old has a head wound but no brain injuries. His mother is still in critical condition. A Fox weather alert, western Michigan in cleanup mode after a major storm swept through earlier today, bringing as many as 4 tornadoes to the state. The massive storm this afternoon downed trees and power lines and caused other damage as well. Officials with the National Weather Service are now headed to the scene to survey that damage. Right now, there are no reports of anyone hurt. And crews are reporting progress against a massive wildfire in Southern California. They say the flames are now 68% contained. Officials have lifted some evacuation orders, allowing residents to comb through the wreckage. That fire has destroyed more than 100 homes and scorched nearly 60 square miles. Will Carr is reporting live now from Los Angeles. Hi, Will. What is the latest with the Blue Cut fire?
Well, good evening, Patty. And the fire crews there on the ground, 2,600 firefighters. They're doing a great job. So far, we're told that this fire could be more than 70% contained by tomorrow. It's the Blue Cut fire. It's burning 60 miles east of Los Angeles. But at its worst, around 80,000 people had to evacuate this area, not knowing if they'd lost everything. So far, 105 homes have burned. And in the process of the residents not being in the area, looters tried to take advantage of the situation. They've been arrested, and now residents are being allowed back in, and they're reacting to the widespread damage.
I cried. This is my friends, not me, but it's their life. I know what they just lost.
The cause of that fire is under investigation. Not so for the Clayton fire, which is 75% contained, burning north of San Francisco. That fire has destroyed 175 homes, and authorities say they've arrested a man for arson starting that fire. Also, we've learned that in other fires, there are scammers out there that authorities are warning about, people who are saying they've lost everything and begging for money when they haven't lost anything in the fires, as these wildfires continue to scar the western United States. Patty Ann.
Will, how does this year of wildfires compare to other recent years?
Well, they're relentless, and many are being fueled by the drought conditions, especially here in California. In 2016, you may remember the Lake Isabella fire that burned hundreds of homes in this area. So far to date, we've seen more wildfires this year than we did last year around this time, which is bad news because in 2015, it was the most expensive wildfire season on record, costing $1.7 billion. And the best thing that homeowners really can do is have 100 feet of defensible space. In fact, here in California, that is required by law, where you clean out all shrubs, dead trees, and brush from away from your home. That gives you the best plan of attack against any wildfires that could pop up for the rest of the year. Patty Ann.
All right, Will Carr reporting from L.A. Thank you. And And for a closer look at weather that the firefighters are facing there, let's go to our senior meteorologist, Janice Dean. She's in the Fox Extreme Weather Center. Hi, Janice.
Not good news across the West, where we have 37 large wildfires burning right now, 100 acres or more. The West is literally on fire and not much relief from Mother Nature. We'll get a little bit of rain into the Southwest, but really California and the Northwest just not getting that moisture that they really need to see. And we're into a situation of drought conditions. Heat advisories remain posted for the Northwest with heat indices well over 100 degrees. Look at the highs today for Portland, 100 degrees, 105 in Medford, 104 in Redding. There is a little bit of relief on the way as a cold front moves in later this weekend and into early next week. Of course, the other big story we are monitoring is the flooding. Record-setting flooding across Louisiana last week. Any more rain is not a good situation, so watching the potential here into Tuesday for more rain, as well as central Texas, where you could see on order of 4 to 6 inches of heavy rain. They don't need to see any more rain in this saturated region. The rivers are running high. We've got major flooding in all of the areas that you see shaded in purple, with moderate flooding in the red shaded areas. So the rivers are starting to come down. Flooding is still an issue here. Flood warnings remain in place, and it looks like we could have the potential for more rainfall in the near future. Quick look at your highs today. We do have a cooler air mass behind this next storm system across the Great Lakes that are going to bring refreshing temperatures for much of the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic into the new work week.
All right, Janice Dean, thank you. Well, officials in Florida are taking an aggressive approach to zap the Zika virus after new cases are reported in a densely populated region near Miami Beach. We'll tell you how the state is trying to stop the spread. Plus, 6 Notre Dame football players arrested within hours of each other. That's all still ahead. 6 Notre Dame football players arrested within hours of each other in 2 separate incidents. 5 of the players were arrested during a traffic stop. Police say they found marijuana in the car along with a loaded handgun. The 6th player was taken into custody outside a bar after he allegedly punched an officer. Notre Dame is responding to the incident, saying, quote, any student arrested on a felony charge also faces dismissal from the university. And now to the Olympics, with the Games in Rio wrapping up this weekend. Organizers are looking ahead to the next Olympics, Tokyo 2020.
I have a strong resolve to do whatever it takes to make Tokyo 2020 a big success. I'd like to make the Tokyo Olympics be, once again, faster, higher, stronger, cleaner, and clearer. Or, in other words, more transparent.
Well, Steve Harrigan is live in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The games there coming to a close. What's the latest, Steve?
Patty, and the latest is Brazil's men just won the gold medal in soccer, so you can hear the celebrations behind me. This nation really erupted after a very tight game with Germany. As far as the U.S. team goes, they continue to add to their gold medal lead. The U.S. women's basketball team won gold today over Spain for the 6th Olympics in a row. The women won in dominating fashion, winning their games by an average of about 40 points. The men play tomorrow for the gold medal. Right now, U.S. has a total of 40 golds. That's well ahead of its nearest competitors for gold medals, Great Britain and China. Patty Ann?
Steve, can you give us an update on Ryan Lochte and that whole U.S. swimmer saga?
This week-long saga appears to be just about at an end. Now all 4 swimmers safely back in the U.S. The last one, Jimmy Fegan, left yesterday. He was allowed to leave, given back his passport after he paid an $11,000 fine. We're hearing a lot of apologies from the U.S. Olympic Committee and from the swimmers themselves. In his latest version of the story and his latest apology, the 2-year-old Ryan Lochte said he over-exaggerated his story. While there's going to be no criminal charges involved, we could see some lengthy suspensions for these 4 swimmers announced as early as next week.
All right, Steve Harrigan live in Rio. Thank you. Well, pregnant women are being warned to avoid another area of Miami. Florida officials announce 5 confirmed cases of Zika in South Beach. That brings the state's caseload to 36 infections not related to travel outside the U.S. Florida Governor Rick Scott says authorities have pinpointed this second area of transmission. It extends about 1.5 miles. Miami Mayor Philip Levine says officials are not taking any chances.
Between our efforts and the county's spraying efforts, the last thing I'd ever want to be on Miami Beach right now is a mosquito, okay? And we're going to do everything in our power to make this city safe for our residents and our tourists.
Well, meanwhile, the governor says he's asking the CDC for additional test kits and lab support, as well as prevention kits for pregnant women. Thousands left homeless after devastating floods in the South.
Books everywhere, floating. Half of it floated out of the house. None of the kids' comfort things either. They just, everything is uncertain.
Crews are working tirelessly, but it's going to be a very long road ahead. Also, we take a special up-close look at two of the biggest issues in the 2016 election: immigration and health care.
With the latest major insurance company leaving many of the Obamacare exchanges, liberals and conservatives are calling for big changes to the health care law. I'm Rich Edson in Washington, and I'll have that story coming up.
Fox News alert: a bombing at a wedding in Turkey, reportedly killing at least 22 people. It happened near the Syrian border. We're told 94 other people were hurt. Those figures, according to the local governor's office. Turkish officials are calling it a terror attack. We will bring you more on this story as it develops. Search crews are now going door to door looking for survivors after devastating flooding slammed Louisiana. At least 13 people died in the powerful storms that swept through parts of that state over the past week. In many areas, the waters are now receding, but they're leaving behind a mess of debris. An estimated 40,000 homes are damaged, forcing families to find other places to live while cleanup efforts continue. President Obama will be heading to the area to tour the devastation this Tuesday. Kevin Corke has more.
Patty Ann, good evening. It is a politically sensitive decision because of the optics. As you can well imagine, when you have a president on vacation and something major like this happens, people want to know, when will he finally be there? Well, after much discussion and a whole lot of criticism, on Tuesday, the president will make his way to Louisiana. The White House making that announcement late yesterday. It'll be the president's opportunity to survey the damage and recovery efforts up close. The president has faced a great deal of criticism. If you've been following the news, you know this, for not breaking from his family vacation here at Martha's Vineyard to address the crisis firsthand. In fact, there was a major editorial in the local newspaper in Baton Rouge, The Advocate, that read in part, "The optics of Obama golfing while Louisiana residents languished in floodwaters was striking." It evoked the precedent of the passive federal response to the state's agony in 2005, a chapter of history no one should ever repeat. Of course, that was a reference to Hurricane Katrina. The White House said this week they were trying to be mindful of what a presidential visit would mean on the ground. Clearly, it would take away not only security apparatus, but also draw from the pool of first responders. And the White House went on to say that they were waiting for an invitation from the governor. Well, they finally got that, and on Tuesday, the president will make his way there. The White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest, in a statement, saying that the president is eager to tell the people of Louisiana that the American people will be with them as they rebuild their community and come back stronger than ever. But experts remind us that second guessing of a president's response to a natural disaster like this is as old as the republic is itself.
So at a certain point, while all presidents from John Adams up to the current president are criticized for taking time off and vacations, this is becoming a bit of a serial problem for Barack Obama. If I was on his staff, I'd advise him to turn it around quick.
A turnaround that will begin on Tuesday. Patty Ann?
All right, Kevin Corke, thank you. And tonight, after the Fox report, don't miss a brand new Water's World special. Here's a preview.
Tell me what you think the president's legacy will be.
His legacy is going to be change, you know.
I think he's probably going to go down as one of the great presidents that this country's ever had.
Are you on drugs?
I am not on drugs, but I am on Fox.
He's saved the auto industry. He's introduced health care.
Didn't he say health care prices were going to go down, but now they've gone up?
Well, I don't know whether he said that. You're saying that.
All right, Water's World airs tonight right after the Fox report. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, and again at 11 and 2, only on Fox News. And now a closer look at some of the issues in the 2016 campaign. First, immigration. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump pushing for dramatically different proposals. William LaJeunesse breaks it all down.
We have the most secure border we've ever had.
Those who patrol it disagree.
People are just coming over, turning themselves in, and we're lucky to catch 40% of those who aren't turning themselves in.
Border apprehensions are up 24% this fiscal year, according to the Border Patrol, including a 78% increase in children and families from Central America.
We're going to build the wall, don't worry.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton disagree radically on immigration and border security. He wants a wall, she doesn't. She defends sanctuary cities. He would cut off their federal aid and deport America's 11 million illegal immigrants. She would offer them citizenship in her first 100 days in office.
Let's move to comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship.
To Trump, that's amnesty.
We should not let anyone into this country who doesn't support our communities.
The idea of a mass deportation policy is as impractical as it is inhumane.
Trump would require employers to hire Americans first and also verify a worker's immigration status. New immigrants would also have to prove they don't need welfare.
He very much views immigration from a cynical, zero-sum kind of attitude, and I think Hillary Clinton recognizes that immigration and immigrants have for a long time and continue to be a very strong net positive for this country.
Clinton promises to close immigration detention centers and stop all deportations except for violent felons.
I would not deport children. I do not want to deport family members either.
Agents call that an open border.
We're allowing too many people to come in unchecked, unvetted, and just giving them free roam around our country.
Clinton says she will expand the use of executive authority, including offering work permits and access to welfare if Congress fails to act in the first 100 days. Well, in fact, Congress has proposed so-called comprehensive immigration reform, but rejected it 5 times in the past decade. In Los Angeles, William LaJeunesse, Fox News.
Thank you, William. Another big issue on the campaign trail, Obamacare. Rich Edson is in Washington with more on that.
Aetna, out. Humana, out. United Healthcare, out. 3 of the nation's top insurance companies say they are significantly scaling back their participation in Obamacare.
Right now, just about every health insurance company in Obamacare is losing money. There are very few exceptions. And they're not losing a small amount of money. They're losing huge amounts of money that are simply not sustainable.
A longtime supporter of government-run health care, Senator Bernie Sanders says Aetna's decision proves Congress should eliminate private interests from what he calls a public responsibility. In a statement, Sanders writes, quote, "The provision of health care cannot continue to be dependent upon the whims and market projections of large private insurance companies, whose only goal is to make as much profit as possible. That is also why we need to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system." Sanders says he will again introduce a bill to create a system where the government directly pays for health care. The U.S. healthcare system is a mix of government programs and private insurance. In the government-run Obamacare exchanges, customers buy insurance from a private company. The administration maintains the Obamacare exchanges will continue adding customers who will have sufficient, often government-subsidized insurance choices. Officials say these markets are still young and will eventually stabilize. However, with rising premiums and large insurance companies withdrawing, insurance executives and academics are already discussing ways to fix the exchanges. Conservatives generally want to relax Obamacare insurance regulations and allow companies to offer cheaper plans with fewer benefits. Some liberals want to increase insurance subsidies or allow more to participate in government health care.
It's not likely in 2017 that either party will have the votes they need to do what they want, to either pass single payer or to repeal and replace Obamacare. So we're really going to have to focus on more incremental changes. I think we're going to have to focus on the regulatory regime in Obamacare. That's what's realistic here.
Every year, insurance companies must request proposed rate increases with government officials. They're doing that now, meaning customers should know if their premiums are increasing and by how much around the time of the election. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Thanks, Rich. And next up, the fight against drugs. Overdoses now surpass car wrecks as the leading cause of death in this country. The CDC says about 30,000 Americans die each year from opioid overdoses. That's nearly 100 deaths a day. The crisis prompting presidential candidates to weigh in. Jonathan Hunt has details.
This is a major epidemic.
Our kids are being poisoned. They're being addicted.
Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump acknowledge the gravity of the opioid crisis in the United States, but how they would attack the problem is vastly different.
I will cut off the source. Build a wall.
I have laid out a 5-point plan about what we can do together. I would like the federal government to offer $10 billion over 10 years.
Clinton's proposal would work with states on prevention, treatment and recovery, provide training for prescribers and first responders, along with ending incarceration for low-level and non-violent offenders, a proposal that addiction experts agree with.
We need access to these services for people. Right now, we're only treating at best maybe 15% of the people who need it.
I'm going to create borders. No drugs are coming in.
On his website, Trump's proposal is less detailed and only includes building a wall along the border to keep drugs out and providing help for addicts.
We haven't seen a plan yet for him. We are urging him and looking forward to seeing how he would like to address this issue.
Jonathan Hunt reporting from Los Angeles. A recent CDC report says the 5 states with the highest rates of drug overdose deaths are West Virginia, New Mexico, New Hampshire, Kentucky, and Ohio. And that's a look at the presidential campaigns coming up, the House and Senate races, and why they're now the source of a whole lot of concern. Also, new questions surrounding the release of 4 Americans from Iran. That's still ahead. Donald Trump campaigning today in the battleground state of Virginia as some Republican leaders voice new concerns about the House and Senate races this November. Doug McKelway has that story in Washington.
We're going to have tremendous voter turnout.
Longtime analysts say the Donald Trump campaign and the Republican Party are in trouble.
Just about everybody has recognized that the Republican Party is deeply divided, and really it's in a mess. I think Donald Trump would agree because he's not getting the kind of support that he thinks he deserves.
What we're looking for here is a candidate who settles down and follows the script and makes the election about Hillary Clinton.
It's not just tepid support from party elders frustrated with Trump's lack of discipline. It's a poor grassroots organization and Trump's reliance on social media at the expense of paid TV ads. Swing states that he must win are currently not polling in his favor, and GOP Senate incumbents in tight races may suffer from the coattail effect.
Senator Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania is very vulnerable. Senator Rubio in Florida is by no means assured of another term. Senator Richard Burr in North Carolina. Senator John McCain in Arizona.
If Trump loses any of those states by double digits, he could pull down ballot candidates with him. Leader McConnell calls GOP control of the Senate, quote, very dicey.
If he's losing by 4 or 5 points, even 6 points, we can make up that difference. It's when it starts inching up towards 8, 9, 10% difference that you can't make up that difference in the campaign.
The next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Still, Trump continues to pull in big crowds, and November 8th remains a long way off. Unpredictable events can change the race.
If he's at the top of his bandwidth and she's at the bottom, he can win this election.
But that's contingent upon Trump doing something that he has not been able to do yet. Stay on message in attacking Hillary Clinton. The good news for Trump is that she ranks second to last in favorability of any presidential candidate in recent history. The bad news for Trump, he ranks dead last in the same category. In Washington, Doug McKelway, Fox News.
Thanks, Doug. Well, Republicans are demanding answers from the Obama administration after it admitted that a $400 million payment to Iran was contingent on the release of 4 American prisoners. Kristen Fisher has more from Washington.
The Obama administration is not backing down. They are refusing to call it ransom, and the argument they use is that this was money that was owed to the Iranians no matter what. So why not use it as leverage to make sure those 4 Americans got home?
We took advantage of the timing to converge these all within a 24-hour period, and we used, and I make no apologies for the fact that at the end game, in the very final hours, we used the leverage of having that money.
But that argument does not sit well with Republicans on Capitol Hill. They argue you can call it leverage all you want, but ransom is ransom. Here's Congressman Ed Royce, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
It was ransom. We now know it was ransom. And on top of that, it put more American lives at risk. And we now know that they've transferred that $400 million into the hands of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is a terrorist organization.
Earlier this month, President Obama flatly denied any connection between the payment and the prisoners.
This wasn't some nefarious deal. We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we won't in the future.
Now, House Speaker Paul Ryan says, quote, the president owes the American people a full accounting of his actions and the dangerous precedent he has set. Republican lawmakers are now planning to hold hearings about this payment sometime after Congress returns from its summer recess. Patty Ann?
Kristen Fisher, thanks. Well, if you're planning a beach vacation, we have a headline for you. We'll tell you why a getaway south of the border could soon be a whole lot cheaper. Also, the fight against voter fraud, why the systems used by several states could be vulnerable. That's still ahead. Potentially good news for budget travelers. Flying between the United States and Mexico could get a lot easier and hopefully cheaper. Starting tomorrow, restrictions that limited particular routes to just a handful of airlines will be lifted, allowing carriers on both sides of the border to fly wherever they want, whenever they want. Airlines will also be able to set their own prices on the flights. The U.S. and Mexico agreed to lift the restrictions last year. With Election Day fast approaching, there is growing concern about the security surrounding online voting. More than 24 states have some type of online system in place, but experts warn they could be vulnerable to cyber attacks. Eric Shawn has more.
Voting can be as easy as a click of the mouse, but is it secure? 26 states and the District of Columbia now allow some form of online voting, from casting your vote online to sending an email. But after high-profile hacks like those at the Democratic National Committee, the Obama administration is looking at ways to protect online voting.
There is a vital national interest in our election process, so I do think we need to consider whether it should be considered by my department and others critical infrastructure.
Once you have something on the internet, you're telling the world, please come hack me.
MIT professor Ron Rivest, an internet voting expert, says despite the promise, online voting is not yet foolproof.
There's lots of wonderful ways the internet can contribute to elections, but putting voting itself online, to me, is a step too far. That's over the line. We don't know how to do it securely. You're inviting trouble. Every country overseas that has an axe to grind with the U.S. can try to get in and manipulate the election.
Washington, D.C. allows members of the military and other voters who live overseas to email their votes. Officials there say they've had no problems.
It's been going well. We've had this program for a few years now, and the only downside that I can see to it is that the voter is required to waive the secrecy of their ballot.
But even the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, the federal election agency, is cautious.
We're not at the point now where we can use the internet to cast ballots securely, safely, and simply. But at some point, we should be able to do that. I hope we can do that in my lifetime.
Last month, Illinois shut down its voter registration website after it may have been hacked. Officials reportedly blaming a, quote, highly sophisticated attack, most likely, they said, from a foreign entity. And Arizona took its registration system offline after it, too, may have been compromised by a hacker. In New York, I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News.
Thanks, Eric. We'll talk about a killer thriller. A family of Michael Jackson fans discovering what could be a priceless artifact from the King of Pop. A North Carolina couple bouncing off the wall after buying a used Michael Jackson cassette, only to discover it appears to be autographed by the King of Pop himself. The couple bought the tape for just $0.25 at a local thrift shop. They say if it's deemed authentic, they will not be moonwalking all the way to the bank. They say they're huge Jackson fans and they would treasure the cassette for all time. Well, okay. And that's how Fox reports this Saturday, August 20th, 2016. I'm Patty Ann Brown, in for Julie Banderas. Thanks for watching. A brand new Watters World special starts now.